Hi everybody, welcome. As you can see, I'm all set to feed one of my bins over here. It's a bin of red wigglers. I assume they're red wigglers because I recruited the worms that live in this bin from my compost barrel outside. And the stuff that I've got set aside for them is a number of different types of kitchen scraps, some fruits and veggies. There's a day's worth of coffee in there, and even though I don't anticipate dryness, I've got this squirt bottle. This squirt bottle has that BTI mosquito dunks solution. I keep over there in the yellow bucket on the ground. I've got the mixture sitting there on standby, and then I periodically refill my little squirt bottle here. We had placed plastic coverings onto this system last time we checked in here 12 days ago, and at that time we did worry a little bit about the moisture situation, so we went ahead and we put a plastic covering on here to preserve whatever moisture is in the system. And my hope is that whatever moisture is in here brought in by the foods they got last time will be sufficient, and that we can only apply a little bit of the BTI solution as a countermeasure to help prevent the breakout of flying insects in here. But if we need to add, more moisture because of dryness, we can do that too. So it seems like we've got some worms hanging out on this top covering of plastic bubble wrap, but I'm going to fold that in half just so the little worms don't get dried out too quickly. Hopefully they don't come squirming out from in between there. Here too, it looks like we've got ourselves a good number of worms coming up to this top covering of paper to hang out. And a lot of times when you put plastic coverings on, any moisture that would otherwise escape to the air and evaporate gets captured and recirculated back down into the bin. And that's part of the reason I like to sometimes leave a little top covering like this, where the moisture that is recirculating sort of lands there, and then we get greeted by a little welcoming party. And I guess to me that's often a pretty good sign too, that there's pretty good moisture content in the system, just based on what we're seeing as far as recirculating moisture. And this thing here is just our feeding zone indicator. It's a used coffee filter. So now before we get started, I'm just going to share some info about this worm bin. Like I said, these are the worms that used to live in my compost barrel, and they were recruited to come inside and work for us 259 days ago. And at that time we decided, I don't know, maybe shortly after we bought them in, we sort of decided that they can stay in here because the bin outside, the compost barrel, is doing just fine without these little guys in there. And over that period of time, there's been 20 feedings applied. I think, like I said earlier, 12 days have passed since that last feeding. There was stuff like banana peels added and some other stuff, worm chow. So I'm curious to see how we're doing as far as leftovers go. There's a lot of nice castings floating around out here. That's a pretty good sign. Everything feels pretty good from a moisture perspective. I would say maybe a little bit of the outer edges seem to have some dry material, just because the top covering of bubble wrap didn't really go edge to edge, and that's fine too. And I could sort of smell like there's a moisture content odor to it, almost like the forest floor after a rainstorm. It is kind of an interesting sort of fresh, natural scent in your worm bins when everything's working properly. So to me, that smell is also kind of a hint that things are okay. It's just out here, you're usually finding more worms than this in the outer edges of a system. And even though this stuff doesn't seem drastically dry, the absence of worms would tell me that perhaps it is a bit drier than it needs to be. And you know what, since we were going to sprinkle in a little bit of this BTI solution anyway, I'm thinking, why don't we just go ahead and use it as an excuse to also slightly hydrate what's out here on this outer edge. So I've just refilled my squirt bottle here with the BTI solution. I don't think we need to add a whole lot, but it does seem like a little bit wouldn't hurt. And better keep in mind that the plastic coverings were only added 12 days ago, so that whole concept of the moisture recirculating around within the system is only had a few, not even 2 weeks to do its thing. So I believe in time the outskirts of the system will get a little bit more moist as time goes on. Out here I see movement, a little bit more than we saw on the other edge. But still, I don't see the harm in adding a little bit of moisture out here too. Like I said, we're going to apply this stuff anyway as just a countermeasure to treat the system with some of this BTI bacteria. So since we were going to do it anyway, we might as well kill 2 birds with 1 stone and address the slight dryness in the outer edges. I think dryness is not going to be an issue down the middle where we fed, because for one, that's where the foods were placed, foods that hopefully contributed to the moisture content of the system, and it's also, dead center of where that plastic bubble wrap was, so it was the most protected from evaporation down the middle. So my hope is between the little bit of moisture we just added to the outer edges, this I guess just the stirring around of the system's contents to try to equalize things a little bit, and then the addition of some, additional foods today, which will hopefully bring with them some extra moisture too, will help bring this system back to the point where it has plenty of moisture in it. So I guess it's not too surprising that the majority of the worms are kind of huddled down the middle where we anticipated the majority of the system's moisture to be focused. And worms, they like to go for where the moisture content is. So it's no surprise that they're in here in numbers. Not to mention there was a number of yummy food bits out here, but like for example, this would be the stem out of one of the banana stems, or one of the banana peels that were fed last time. Nice and juicy inside. I did sort of expect to bump into 2 of those, but perhaps I was just a little bit too overzealous with, here we go, here's the other one. Yeah, not bad. And there were some napkins, I think, fed too. I mean, as far as bedding goes, we were really only using large chunks of bedding, just a couple large napkins, and it almost seems like they went ahead and nibbled away the napkins too. Because all I'm seeing as far as leftovers go is those 2 banana stems. Wow, they really did a number on that last feeding in only 12 days. This might be what is this? I don't know. I thought there'd be more banana peels, but maybe not. Lots of worms in here. Nice count. Good number of worms in here. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and drop in today's feeding. So besides the kitchen scraps and the coffee, I've been sort of hoarding, not really hoarding, I just really haven't had a chance to use these elsewhere, so I thought we would kind of follow suit with what we did last time, which was give them fairly large chunks of paper as the bedding to go with their feeding. And let's just start sprinkling in some of this stuff that we're going to be giving them. So besides these stems of broccoli rabe, I believe, there's also a pear in here. I guess this was a contribution from my mom. It just was too far gone to be eaten. You could see she tried salvaging it, but decided to just give up the attempt at eating that pear and donate it to the worm feeding cause. And these grapes were also from my mom. The broccoli rabe I happened to stumble on out in front of the farmer's market near my house. Somebody just went ahead and cut off what they wanted to take home and left the scraps right there in front of the farmer's market. And I couldn't resist just taking this stuff. Ooh, these poor little wormies are stuck to this frozen pear. I guess that's the one thing a lot of people sort of caution against when they're feeding frozen stuff to their worms is, you know, to be cautious and try not to injure any worms in the process of giving them frozen foods. So Let's see if we can scrape off any worms that seem to have gotten stuck to this frozen fruit here. Well, my hand was clean, but I guess I could use some of these coffee filters to wipe off my hands, try to restore a little bit of order. And you know, since I do have a surplus here of these coffee filters, I think we could take that one that was originally found in the middle of the bin, draped across the top, covering the feeding area as our feeding zone indicator, and use it as supplementary bedding. And I've got a couple more, so why don't we just use them all? And I've also got the last one, and we'll save that last one to be our replacement feeding zone indicator. This last one has the actual coffee in it, which I'll sprinkle across the top here to top off this fairly generous feeding, which I hope will bring with it a little bit of additional moisture to help hydrate things in this system. I don't want to end up with a big muddy mess, so I think we're in pretty good shape as far as moisture goes. Between the addition of moisture with the spray bottle, in addition to the moisture that's going to come out of these pear pieces, as well as the other veggies that are in here, out of those grapes and out of those stems, I think we'll be in good shape here. So let's start covering up. Now this looks like a piece of stem, not stem, the other end, the flower end, I guess, of the banana peel. Look at these little itsy bitsy baby worms hanging out inside of it. So I guess we did find one other little tiny piece of leftover of the banana peels, but not much at all. All right, very cool, very cool. So I'm just trying to get things to be sort of level here as I cover up. We'll just bring over the stuff that we piled on the outer edges and rake everything back and forth until we've got a nice level top covering here. Well, top covering is going to be my newspaper that I bring back over to cover the top here. But before we do, we're going to lay down a little coffee filter right over where we last fed to indicate to ourselves where we last fed, in case we don't know where to look next time we come back in here. No, I don't think it's all that important. It's just sort of tradition in my wormery to do that. And bring back the covering sort of the way we found them. Worms all over the place, really cool. Worms hanging out on the top covering papers, worms all over the feeding area. I guess the only place where we didn't really see a lot of worm action was out on the outer edges. And hopefully that's something that'll sort of turn around in time now that we've got plastic coverings on again. Actually, I don't remember if this system had coverings on it up until just last week. Did we always have no coverings on this one? It might be the case, I can't recall. But this way I just feel a little bit safer now that the heat's running in my house. It's tending to keep the air very dry within the house, and as a result the worm bins tend to dry out a lot more quickly than they would during the humid summer months. So I'm being really vigilant and putting coverings on like this wherever needed. Pretty much got plastic coverings on all my systems at this point. And this way I feel like I don't have to worry about, you know, subjecting the systems to undue evaporation. All right, everyone, I think we're pretty much done here. I've just got a few things that I've got to clean up and put away, but I'm not going to waste your time with that. That's boring. Before I go, though, really quick, let me just say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always very much appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's really appreciated as well. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.